Welcome to the Gav Goes In podcast. Guys, I have to say, I am shocked today. Man City drawing 0-0 against Southampton. Did not see that one coming. And now I think, to be honest with you, City, I know City got a point in the day, but I think for them, because I had City finishing in second place, because I assumed that they was definitely going to beat Southampton, and I don't know how Southampton had managed to get a draw. Obviously, I didn't see the game, but I think City must be disappointed with that, definitely, and there was a chance for them to go level on points with Arsenal. Obviously, Arsenal being ahead on goal difference, but the fact that they drew the game, I think they'll be hoping that Liverpool now can definitely beat Arsenal, and then hope that they beat Bournemouth at home. And then obviously Arsenal's next league game will be Newcastle. But I think definitely for me, they'll be disappointed for sure, man. But I think full credit has to go to Southampton, if I'm honest, because as I said, I did not see that happening. And the fact that Arsenal have managed, that Southampton have managed to get a point, already being relegated, I think you have to say that, they would have thoroughly deserved that, man. As I said, I didn't see the game, but I think Man City would definitely be disappointed with that one. And I think Erling Haaland started the game as well. And you know what? It's actually surprising, isn't it, that Erling Haaland comes back and, they struggle to a draw. Whereas the combination they had before with Marmoush, playing as the 9, and then you had like Savinho, Doku, etc. And then Haaland comes back into the team. I think Foden might have started as well. And they end up drawing the game, which is disappointing. But it is what it is. It is what it is, guys. But we move. So, Man United versus West Ham tomorrow. 2 o'clock kickoff. And again, for me, I don't want people's expectations to be, United, that this result doesn't really matter. Because for me, Man United need to make sure that they get a positive result, obviously for the confidence as well. And sorry guys, bear me 1 minute. This sun's killing me. One sec. Yeah, sorry. So for me, Man United for me need to play a strong team, because again the game against Chelsea on Friday, will take care of itself. And again, you're gonna expect Man United to rest a lot of players. But for me, I think United need to play their strongest team and keep the momentum going from the result against Athletic Bilbao on Thursday. And as I said, I've got Ahmad in the thumbnail, and for me, I would start Ahmad this game. I know there's obviously risk of Ahmad picking up an injury, but I would say Ahmad needs to start this game, especially with the team being at home. And then against Chelsea, I think, 'cause again, this league season has been a complete write-off. But for me, I think if you start Ahmad in this game and then you want to rest him against Chelsea, because obviously you got the Europa League Final on the 21st of May, then I think that might be a better way to go for me, And I think again, people think Amorim, is absolved of any blame. What I would say is that he still needs to put out a relatively, good good lineup, to be honest with you, because for me, if they was to lose this game against West Ham, I think a draw is not good enough for me. I think United being at home, they will need to definitely be on the front foot and win this game. But if they was to not win this game and then you go into the Chelsea game with a loss, and the Chelsea game ends in another loss, and then you've got the Europa League, for me that isn't good preparation for a final, And although people will say the final is all that matters, which again I understand, but we can't lose sight of this this league season either. Obviously 3 games left to go, and for me, United just need to somehow navigate their way into getting positive results in these league games before the Europa League final. Because the worst case scenario for Amorim would be is if he was to lose those two games, be out of the Europa League, and obviously you had the last game of the season against Aston Villa. And for me, I think, that will spell the end for me for Amorim. So he needs to make sure he plays a competitive lineup. And based on that, I think he needs to start, with a strong lineup against Aston Villa for sure. I mean, against West Ham. And as I said, the Chelsea game, you would expect him to make a couple of changes. Big up, Salah is the king. I don't think he is, but but big up yourself. So how I would go for the lineup against West Ham. I will keep Onana in goal. Definitely, I think Onana should definitely stay in goal. I know, obviously, there's a lot of criticism with the save he made against. Well, wasn't really a save. He went with two hands for the shot by the Athletic Bilbao player that went in. But I think Onana does need a lot of confidence going into this game. And obviously the Europa League Final is coming up. So for me, he will need to be playing definitely this game at home. And as I said, I think there's no excuse really for, him not being, in the right frame of mind, really. So I think starting him against West Ham in this game, I think would be ideal. Big up Salah's the King says, what is your favourite team? So my favourite team to watch is Barcelona, but I also support, obviously a team I support is Manchester United. So yeah, Man United and Barcelona are my two teams. So yeah, just going back. So the back three, Lenny Yoro for me has to rest. I think he definitely deserves to rest this game. However, I think West Ham have got two players in, well, I'll say three actually. They've got players in Mohamed Kudus, Bowen, and Paqueta. You would arguably say three of their best players. And I think Lenny Yoro, for me, needs to play this game because I see him as the only one really capable of dealing with Mohamed Kudus. I think Luke Shaw might start this game, but again, Luke Shaw's not really fit. So I think having a Lenny Yoro, and even if you're going to play Lenny Yoro for 45 minutes, I think get 45 minutes out of him, and then if you want to take him off, take him off. But for me, yeah, I think Lenny Yoro, I think the way he's been playing, he has to start for me because, as I said, I think he's the only one capable of dealing with Kudus. Although I think Mazraoui could deal with him, but I think either Mazraoui or Lenny Yoro definitely deserves to have a rest. And I think Mazraoui might get the rest, if I'm honest, Big up to Barbara Joseph. Big up to DXR as well. Yeah, I'm all good, bro, man. Thank you, man. I'm all good. Yourself? So, yeah, I think the back three I would go for. I would start Luke Shaw, left side centre-back. And I would start Lenny Yoro as the right side centre-back. And then the middle of the three, I'm trying to think what's going to... I'd probably start Harry Maguire, personally, because I think Maguire, Shaw, and Lenny Yoro, I think, should be the back three. I think against Chelsea, because of Nicholas Jackson, I think a more mobile defender would need to be starting. So I wouldn't mind having Lindelof, starting in that game, whether you play him in the middle of the three. Matthias de Ligt, I'm not sure if he's going to be back, but I'd think if Matthias de Ligt is going to play the Europa League Final, he will need to get game time either against West Ham or against Chelsea. And I think more than likely, if he is fit, I think the Chelsea game, he might see more game time. But I think this game against West Ham tomorrow, I think Luke Shaw, Lenny Yoro, and Harry Maguire is the three that I would go for. And then midfield, for me, I will start Casemiro this game, and then I will give Casemiro the game off against Chelsea. Because again, Chelsea have something to play for. For United, the big game obviously is the Europa League. And I think resting Casemiro against Chelsea, although I think he will be needed against Chelsea, but I think he does need to be rested for the Europa League game. So I will start Casemiro this game and then play him possibly with Bruno. I'm trying to think who else is there. And At home, I think United should go on the front foot. So if that's the case, and again, it just shows you that in this system there isn't too many options, Because for me, Kobe Minu is a 10 in this system. Manuel Ugarte, I'm not really a massive fan of him, and I think at home, if you wanna go on the front foot, Emmanuel Ugarte is not someone you really start with, in my opinion. I think he's better coming on. I think Manuel Ugarte would probably be used in the Chelsea game, and I think that would be the game, where you'd probably get the most out of him out of the two. So I'd start Casemiro and Bruno in that midfield, and then right wing back. You know what? I wouldn't mind seeing Patrick Dorgu play there again. I wouldn't mind seeing Dorgu play there again. And then left wing back, Harry Amas. I think Harry Amas, give him a game at home, crowd behind him. I think that would be ideal. And then the three and the striker. Again, for me, Ahmad has to start. I'll start Ahmad this game. And just like Casemiro, I'll give them the game off against Chelsea. Whether you put them on the bench and want to bring them on for the last 20 minutes. Because I think Casemiro and Ahmad, for me, are the two key players from this Man United lineup, along with Lenny Yoro and Mazraoui, I would say, that have to be fit for this Europa League final. So I think if there's any chance to give both them players a rest before that, I think this is the game to play them in. Play them 90 minutes against West Ham. And then if you want to take them out the squad or put them on the bench against Chelsea, because Chelsea will be the favourites for that game. And Chelsea, again, have something to play for. So for me, I think... both players will need to be playing this game, and then you see what happens for the Chelsea game. But I think that we might. But I think personally, Ahmad has to start in that right 10. Left 10, I'll give Mason Mount a game. I think the fact that Mount come off the bench and scored, let's be fair, 2 world-class goals. I think for the confidence, I think starting him would be good. And then I think as a striker, I mean, I want to see Cheeto play, to be honest with you, because I think Cheeto at home in front of the crowd, could give him a boost. But that means where does Kobe Minu play? And again, it's tough because it's either you play Ahmad at right wing back and then you play Mason Mount as a right 10, Kobe as a left 10, and then Cheeto, I would say. Or if you're not going to start Kobe in this game, start Kobe against Chelsea in one of the 10 positions. And if he impresses enough, that 10 position for me will be up for grabs between him, Mount, and Garnacho. Because for me, Ahmad starts in that right 10 for me, definitely. So, I think what will be good is if you don't start Kobe, because again, I don't want to see Kobe playing as one of the central midfield players. So, and he's going to play Bruno. So, but then Mount obviously come off the bench and got 2 goals. So it's like if you want to keep Mount's confidence up, you might want to start him the game straight after. But I think Kobe starting against Chelsea would be, the game where he can kind of show what he's got to offer, and then see how it goes. And I think Cheeto for me, I'll start Cheeto this game, and then you probably start Rasmus away from home against Chelsea. And then if you want to take Rasmus off because he's the only one available, and again Cheeto can't play in Europe, so I think that might be a better way for him to go for me. A big up to Zipsy. So Zipsy says we must think about the final. The Prem does not matter at all. So Zipsy, what I would say is that this notion that the Prem doesn't matter at all, I don't agree with that, because as I said, the Europa League will take precedence, and I agree with that, But Amorim still needs to put out a decent lineup in these Premier League games, because the worst case scenario for Amorim is that if United don't win either of these league games remaining and then they get beat in the final, he has nowhere to hide, And again, it will be a definite sacking for me, even though I think he should be sacked anyway because the season hasn't been good as a whole. But so I don't believe the Premier League doesn't matter at all, because United are 15th, I believe now, because I think Everton won today as well. So I think Everton are pulling away, I would say. So I don't want to hear that the Premier League season doesn't matter at all, because as I said, he still needs to make a good fist of it, because let's say, for instance, they get decent results against Chelsea, West Ham and Aston Villa, and they get beat in the Europa League final. Although I think he should still get sacked, but it won't look as bad. But if he just neglects this league and then doesn't get the Europa League win, then as I said, he'll be in massive trouble. So that's what I would say. Big up to Reluctant Gamer. Big up, bro. So Zipsy says, Dorgu and Ahmad link up was crazy. Good, we got to see that again. Exactly. 100%. As I said, I think this is the game where he needs to play Dorgu and Ahmad for me. Dorgu as the right wing back, Ahmad as the right 10. And I think the reason that combination there works well is because Ahmad's a very unselfish player, you know, and again, with Dorgu, I think Dorgu can the way Ahmad plays, you know, he probably offers the athleticism and Ahmad will offer the quality. So that kind of combination there works well. And you can see against Athletic Bilbao, as soon as Dorgu went to that right side and was playing with Ahmad, you can see how much those two, their combinations were there. So for me, I think that definitely start both of them tomorrow. And then against Chelsea, you know, if you want to rest Dorgu for the Europa League final and rest Ahmad, that's fair enough, you know what I mean? And then play some of the kids. I think that might be the way to go. But I don't want to see Ahmad play against Chelsea, really, because I think, you know, if he gets an injury or if he's tired, then as I said, man, I think it might be a problem. So I think, yeah, definitely those two have to start tomorrow. So Zipsy says, I really think Amorim won't start Bruno. You know what? I think he will start Bruno, and then I think he might rest him against Chelsea, because the fact that Chelsea is the game on Friday and it's the last game before the Europa League, I think he might not. I mean, there is such thing as game rhythm as well, so he might rest Bruno against Chelsea and then bring him on for half an hour. You know, so he might do that. But I think if you're gonna play Bruno, then I think this might be the game at home to play him. And then if you want to rest certain legs, you know, that might be the way to go forward. But I think personally the Chelsea game will be harder because Chelsea have something to play for and they're going to be going all out, especially at home. So I think if he plays his first team as close to that as possible against Chelsea, I think that could backfire, you know, because you're going to want to have you know, your key players, i.e. Ahmad, Mazraoui, what's his name, Lenny Yoro. You know, you're going to want to have those three fit and available. So I don't think it'd be a good idea for him to play them against Chelsea personally. So, but we'll have to wait and see what he does, because I think one thing's for sure, you can never know what Amorim's going to do. But he's got big decisions to make, let's be honest. So Zipsy says, I don't think Amorim deserves to get sacked. He doesn't have any of the players he wants. This system is really unique. And again, Zipsy, this is something that, you know, again, if I know it's your first time obviously in here, but if you've been watching my channel for a little while, you know where I'm going to go with this. You know, this whole notion that Amorim needs his own players is the biggest load of nonsense I've ever heard. And I'll tell you why. Yeah. You tell me a manager that has had their own players other than Pep and Klopp. Pep and Klopp have earned their right to get their own players, you know, because of the success that they brought to the team, you know, or the way that the team were going when they first went there. So they earned the right to get their own players. Amorim came in when United were 4 points off a top four. You know, they've got 6 wins all season in the league. You know, he has 1-0 Aston Villa, Ollie Watkins again. So he's broken the record now for most goals scored for Aston Villa. So, yeah, sorry, back to what I was saying. So if you look at Amorim, he took over when United were 4 points off of the top four. You know, they're now in 15th position. He's got 6 wins in the league, you know, and 50% of the games he's lost in the league for Man United. So the fact that United are performing that badly in the league, you know, although they are in a Europa League final, but again, the evidence, United over the last 10 years, I think, have got to 9 finals, which you can just say that it isn't the manager that's getting them to the finals. It's the players that are just getting over the line, you know. So you can't really credit Amorim for United getting to the final, because these players have shown that they've got to finals regardless of how bad they've been doing. So you can't really give Amorim credit. Not to mention, it was the subs. And again, you can say that he did make the subs, but he had no choice but to make the subs because he messed up in the first place. That came on against Bilbao and obviously helped turn the tide. Because let's be honest, the way the game was going, I could see Bilbao get another goal because they were on top, and the subs changed the game, i.e. Ahmed, and Mason Mount obviously got 2 goals as well. So this system isn't unique, for one, because if you look at Inter Milan play a 3 at the back. Bayer Leverkusen play a 3 at the back. So this system isn't unique. It's just that this manager is choosing to play the wrong players in the wrong position. If you look at Kobe Manu, he's a 10, and in this system, and he's playing him as a central midfielder, as a 6 or an 8. If you look at what's his name, Bruno Fernandes, in this system, he's a central midfielder, a 6 or an 8, not a 10. Garnacho, his attributes are as a wing back. He plays him in the 10. Xerxes a hybrid because Xerxes is a 9, but he's chosen to play him in the 10. Cool. But although I prefer Xerxes in the 9. Who else is there? You've got Patrick Dorgu, who's really a left back, and he's more effective, in my opinion, as a right wing back. So there's things that this manager is getting wrong. So to say that he needs his own players, this is a lot. This for me is a whole lot of nonsense, because the only way you get your own team is by proving that you can do well with the players you have at your disposal right now. And the fact of the matter is, he isn't doing a good job. And to say that this system is unique, is really unique, again, that's a load of nonsense. And I'm not sure where you've got that from, But for me, Amorim just needs to make sure he wins this Europa League, because, as I said before, if he doesn't win this, for me, I would sack him anyway. But if he doesn't win this, then there's nowhere to hide, and he should expect himself to be sacked at the end of the season, and have no complaints, because he's going to get his own players. There's no manager that's he ain't going to get given 8 or 9 players. So the majority of the players he has now, he's going to have to deal with him. So, if we're saying that these players are shit, these players have also got themselves to a Europa League final. So, you can't have it both. It's either these players are not good enough, or the manager isn't good enough and these players are getting to the final themselves. So we can't have it both ways. But big up yourself anyway. Big up, gamer, man. Man City drew 0-0. Again, I was shocked because I did not see that happening. I thought City would at least won that game 3 or 4-0. I was going for. But I think the second place now, they've kind of messed themselves up, unless Liverpool beat Arsenal tomorrow and then they beat Bournemouth in the next home game. But that draw, I didn't see happening. But what I would say, there's no coincidence how Erling Haaland's come back and he started the game, and they've now drawn against Southampton, because Marmoush didn't start. So I think Pep messed up there. I think Pep, what he should have done is kept the same team and then bring Haaland on. And then the home game against Bournemouth, you might have wanted to start him there in front of the home crowd. But the fact that he started him, obviously I didn't see the game, but there's no coincidence he's come back and they haven't got the win. So they've messed up there. Yeah, Villa winning 1-0, Ollie Watkins. But big up to Lauren Birch. So big up to Ronan. Ronan says, you want to sack the manager who just joined the club in the middle of the season, barely had a pre-season, and hasn't even had the chance to recruit players for his system. Again, Ronan, all this nonsense about, he hasn't had a pre-season, he joined in the middle of the season. The facts are, he took over from Ruud van Nistelrooy because Ineos thought this was a top young coach. The fact that he's came into the club and he's got 6 wins. The team are 15th in the league. They were 4 points off a top 4, and he's taken them that far down, and you're saying that he hasn't even had players to recruit for the system. Again, it's either these players are shit or the manager is failing at his job, because the players have got themselves to a Europa League final, not Ruben Amorim. So you need to realize that, because these players have shown over the last 10 years that they've got to 9 finals. So Amorim coming in isn't doing anything different, because this team got to finals under Oli, under Mourinho, under Ten Hag. So this whole that these players are shit, it's either the players are shit or the manager's shit. So you can't have it both ways. You know what I mean? I look at it and I think to myself, I don't care if he's joined middle of the season, because Ineos didn't bring him in for that. They brought him in because they thought he was a top young coach that the likes of Man City were looking at, the likes of Liverpool were looking at. And it's fair to say that he's failed, So to say that he shouldn't be sacked is laughable, because he's failed at what he's doing now. And again, if you think he shouldn't be sacked because they lose the Europa League, again, it just shows the standards of the club. Because I've never known a team that, apart from probably Arsenal, that a manager can go through how many years, or in Amorim's case, the whole season, more or less, and perform as badly as they are. And we wonder why this team is where it is. Because the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Man City, these clubs wouldn't put up with that. PSG, they wouldn't put up with that. So why am Man United? And I don't care how long he's been there. At the end of the day, he isn't doing a good job, and that's a fact. But big up yourself for your comment anyway. Lauren Burt says centre-back De Ligt. Yeah, for me, De Ligt needs to... I'm not sure how far De Ligt is off coming back, obviously, into the squad. But for me, De Ligt would definitely need some minutes against Chelsea to prepare him for the final. Hopefully, if he can make it. But big up yourself anyway. So Lauren reckons United will beat West Ham 2-1. Fernandez, Bowen, Ugarte, we'll have to wait and see, as I said, because it depends what team he plays. Because if he plays a strong team, I would expect United to get the job done. But if he changes the team and thinks he's going to play a more stronger team against Chelsea, that could backfire for the Europa League, I believe, because the last thing United want is to pick up any injuries. But yeah, as I said, West Ham have got a few players that will need to be watched. As I said, Kudus, Paqueta, Bowen, and again, if he changes around the team, they could come unstuck. And I think again, the confidence that United will have from the beating of Athletic Bilbao, I think personally he should play a similar team to go into that. And then again, if he wants to change the team against Chelsea to rest legs for the final, then that'll be a better way of going. But big up yourself anyway. So Lauren thinks Chelsea beat United 3-1. I think Chelsea win the game against United on Friday. I'm not sure how much they'll win by, but I do think they'll win the game. Big up Daniela. Big up for coming on. Big up to Sham as well. So Gamer says, Villa has got Tottenham and Man United last 2 games. I can see them winning last games as Man United and Tottenham got eyes on something else. Newcastle has to win tomorrow. Yeah, I agree, man. I think if Aston Villa win this game, I believe Aston Villa move into 4th. So they're winning 1-0 against Bournemouth right now. And I think they go into 4th. And again, their last 2 games, Tottenham and United, they will definitely have something to play for. So for me, it's tough because I think Nottingham Forest play Leicester tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, Leicester tomorrow. And if Nottingham Forest beat Leicester, they will be, a point behind? They'll be on 64. No, they'll be on 64 points. So yeah, they'll be 3 points behind Arsenal before Arsenal play at 4:30 against Liverpool. So they'll still be in the shout. So as I said, yeah, there's loads of teams that are still in the reckoning, man. And yeah, I think the only team you could possibly say that were guaranteed to get into the Champions League places was Man City. Obviously, Arsenal in the driving seat as well. But Man City drawing against Southampton, I don't think that's cemented themselves in there. So, yeah, they'll need to beat Bournemouth But it's going to be a roller coaster finish, man, definitely. Big up to Chantel Rose. Yeah, big up, Chantel. Big up for coming on. Yeah, thank you, Chantel. Thank you. I'll keep smiling, don't worry. But yeah, big up yourself anyway. So Sham says, hovering just above relegation team, 16 losses, 39 points in 35 games. Amorim should have been sacked ages ago, but I reckon his run in Europe has kept him in for another season. Yeah, big up, Sham, man. I couldn't have said it any perfectly, to be honest with you. You know, to think that this manager has 16 losses, you know, and what people are forgetting as well, Eric Ten Hag was an absolute disgrace at Man United. And if it wasn't for Ten Hag's, how many games he got? Did he get like 4 or 5 games? If it wasn't for Ten Hag's 4 or 5 games and picking up some points, United could find themselves in the relegation battle right now. And people seem to be forgetting this, you know. So 16 losses, 39 points, haven't even got 40 points yet in 35 games. That is unacceptable. So, and Sham's right. The fact that United are still in Europa League, this is the only reason why people are actually saying, you know, he deserves to keep his job. Because the people that think he deserves to keep his job, regardless of what happens in this Europa League, I'm sorry, man, but I don't know what these guys are smoking, because I've never seen the standards so low for a club, you know, and I couldn't care less if he's coming there half the season. The facts are, he's failing currently at what he's doing. So, and that's the only thing we can go off. Guys, if you're in there, it's your first time, make sure you smash that like button and make sure you subscribe to my channel as well at GavGoesIn. Big up yourself for coming on, everyone. Yeah, big up, Shan. Always looking fresh. I do try, man. I do try. You know, I have to make sure I'm looking fresh for you guys. So, yeah, big up yourself anyway. If you haven't smashed that like button, make sure you do as well. So, level 1 points, Chelsea and Newcastle United tomorrow. Yeah, I think, you know, this game between Chelsea and Newcastle, you know, I would say the winner of that tomorrow definitely gets into the Champions League places. Yeah, for me, the winner of that definitely gets into the Champions League places. And as I said, I think that's going to be a tense game tomorrow. I think Newcastle at home will be tough for Chelsea. A draw would be ideal for the likes of, you would say, Arsenal. Even for Nottingham Forest, I would say. Because those teams have still got to play each other. So, yeah, but I'll go as far as saying that whoever wins that game tomorrow will have to definitely be assured of the Champions League places. So, yeah. So Gamer says, Sham, you can become... Oh. Yeah, big up, Gamer, man. Big up. Yeah, big up, Sham, man. Just comment in the stream once it's ended. And as I say, yeah, I'll sort it out for you, man. But big up. So DXR says, Amorim doesn't want to sell Bruno, yeah? Again, this isn't Amorim's choice, because this is what I'm trying to say to you. The press conference that Amorim done, where he said, you know, that Bruno's not going anywhere, it's like the manager's so brazen to say that. And again, I don't expect him to say anything else, but the manager's not even his job ain't even secure, because unless he's been told by Ineos that regardless of what happens in the Europa League, your job is safe, I don't know why he would come out and say Bruno's definitely staying, because he's not even assured he's not even assured if he's even staying. So again, that's a bit odd. And to all those people that think Bruno Fernandes, if United get offered 100 million or 120 million, for those of you that think that Man United should reject that offer, again, I don't know what you people are on, because the guy is going to be 31 next season. And for people to say that United should be rejecting that bid, I'm sorry, you guys don't want United to be better. And again, I think a lot of people are just doing it for their own benefit, you know, for their own player FC kind of thing. And the day, the guy's going to be 31, and if a club is dumb enough to come in and offer 120 million for Bruno Fernandes, I don't want to hear no arguments. You just take that bid and you run with it, because I've never heard so much nonsense over the last couple of days that people are actually contemplating turning down that amount of money, you know. So yeah, I don't really get that, you know. But again, everyone has their own opinions. But to turn down 120 million for Bruno Fernandes, give me that all day long, you know. Yeah, DXI. The thing is, I wouldn't say it's to invest in a new star player. I'm just looking at, you know, look at what United have there already. You know, you have players obviously like a Kobe Minu, for instance. He might thrive more when Bruno goes. And obviously, if you get the money you're getting in for Bruno, you can use that, you know, to strengthen other areas of the pitch. But the main thing is, if you're gonna get 120 million for a player that's on 300 and what 50 grand a week, he's gonna be turning 31. His best years are behind him. If you're getting that amount of money and you're even contemplating turning that down, again, as I said, I don't know what some of these fans are thinking, because that's just madness. But big up. Yeah, Gamer says, we're missing Joe Linton. Big miss. Wilcox not good enough, unfortunately. Do you know what? I think you mean Willock, yeah. What I would say, I think the Joe Linton, the fact that he's missing against the likes of Arsenal, I think will be big, because again, Arsenal don't really like the physical teams up against them, and as I said, I think the fact that he's missing, you know, it might backfire. I think with Joe Willock though, Joe Willock is a willing runner, you know, so he could offer a different threat. But I think personally, the likes of Joe Linton with his physicality would cause Arsenal problems. But again, Newcastle will have to find another way of trying to overcome that, you know. And again, they've got something to play for. So yeah, we have to wait and see. But yeah, I think, you know, Willock might surprise. Obviously, ex-Arsenal player as well. You know, he might have something to say about that. So we'll have to wait. So Ronan says the board failed Amorim by offloading Rashford, Sancho, and Anthony without signing replacements. Any serious club would have at least secured Tel and Kolo Muani on loan to back the manager. So again, Ronan, and big up yourself, Ronan, because again, like I'm not asking you to agree with my opinion. You know, obviously, it's free. You're free to say what you want, as long as it's respectful, you know, and have your own opinion. But again, I think a lot of these things, I would say, are coming from other people, because let's put it this way, yeah. If Amorim came in and didn't want Rashford, Sancho, and Anthony, and even though I think Sancho would have gone before anyway, but let's look at Rashford and Anthony. You know, I look at these two players right now for what Man United have, you know, and I look at, would Rashford and Anthony start in this Man United team right now? And the answer has to be yes, because I would happily see Anthony playing as a right 10 or a right wing back ahead of Dalot or ahead of Garnacho, who has been playing there, because he's better than both of them, you know. Especially Dalot, because Dalot's a right-sided centre back in this system. So I look at Anthony. Could Anthony have played the right wing back and the right 10? 100%. I look at Rashford. Is Rashford better than Garnacho? He is. Even though both players are not number 10s, they're both wide players, or in Garnacho's case, a wing back in this system. So I look at Rashford and Anthony, and I say these are two players that Man United could have done with, that are better than what United have in these positions currently. The problem I have with Amorim is that Amorim would have been fully aware, and he's even come out with a quote saying this, that he knew that he wasn't going to be getting anyone in return for letting Rashford and Anthony go. Yeah. So what you're meant to do as a top coach that he's meant to be, you know, is you either blood through some of the youngsters to cover for the likes of Rashford and Anthony going out on loan, or better yet, you just don't get rid of them in the first place. Because what he's done is handicapped himself, and he's handicapped himself to the point that he's got players playing in those positions that are not better than what you've got going out. So I don't blame Ineos for that, because at the end of the day, Ineos made it aware to Amorim that, you know, you're not really going to get any players if you let those two players go. And the fact of the matter is, he didn't give Anthony a chance. He had these problems with Rashford, but you've shot yourself in the foot by getting rid of both players, and knowing that you wasn't going to get anyone else in replacement. So this whole thing about, that the board failed him. No, he failed himself because, as I said, any competent manager doesn't get rid of players knowing that you're not going to get anything else in return. So I don't even look at Amorim and feel sorry for him, because it was a dumb decision for him to even go and do that. Yeah, big up, Chantel, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Chantel, make sure you subscribe as well if you haven't. But big up yourself. Yeah, listen, Gamer, Anthony's a very good player, man. I know you get people that are not big fans of Anthony, but the fact that we have to watch a front three, as I keep saying, of Bruno Fernandes, Garnacho, and Højlund, I mean, I don't want to hear anyone tell me that Anthony's not a good player, because confidence is a thing, But big up anyway. Big up to Blue Edits, says, why are people so confident in Spurs? In the last UEL final, everyone said Leverkusen would win it, and obviously we all know what happened. Yeah, I think what it is, again, Man United, and I heard this stat the other day, Man United haven't beaten Tottenham since 2022, which I can't actually believe, What I would say, if we're comparing both teams, I would possibly say Tottenham have the more balanced team for me. They've got two centre backs in. I know Romero's a liability, but Mickey van der Ven's a very good player. Would I swap Mickey van der Ven for Harry Maguire? I would. Would I swap him for De Ligt? No. Would I swap him for Lenny Yoro? No. And Mazraoui for me, is a multifunctional player. Would I swap Romero for any of the defenders? Possibly not. Possibly Lindelof, you'd probably say. Maguire, 50-50, but definitely not for De Ligt or Yoro. Then I look at the fullbacks. I think Destiny Udogie is better than anything United have at fullback. Pedro Porro, obviously this system, United are playing a wing-back. I think Pedro Porro would be better than Dalot at right wing-back. Obviously Vicario and Onana. Would you swap Vicario for Onana? You probably would, or there's not really much in it. The midfield, again, you've got Bentancur, you've got Bissouma. The only player in central midfield that I'm not swapping anyone for is Casemiro in this system. Then you go further forward. Solanke, I'd have him over Rasmus Højlund any day. Son, I know Son's getting on. His legs are gone, but you take him over Garnacho any day. The only player that I'm not taking anyone over is Ahmad. That's the only player. So, I think Spurs have to be respected. I think in terms of Spurs being big-time bottlers, I hear that. But I think personally, this game's going to be about fine margins, and you respect United with their experience, and the quality, the likes of a Casemiro, the likes of Ahmad, Lenny Yoro, Matthias De Ligt, if he's fit and available, to see United through. But it's not going to be easy. And Tottenham have dangerous players, And the thing is, if Tottenham go 1-0 up, I don't know how United are going to react. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Man United definitely walk this game, And again, if you look at Bayer Leverkusen when they played Atalanta were the wrong team for Bayer Leverkusen. They were completely the wrong team, high energy team, and they blew away Leverkusen in the first half, really. So we'll have to wait and see. But DXR says, I am happy Anthony found form. I don't think he would want to come back. Yeah, I mean, if I'm Anthony, under this manager right now, why would you want to come back? I hear that. But, for me, it just depends what happens in this Europa League, because this Europa League will tell me what Ineos are on. Because if Ineos have any standards, then they just do what's right. They don't listen to the fan base in wanting Amorim to stay. If they're serious, then they will just do what's required. Because, as I said, any top club doesn't put up with this. I mean, look at Real Madrid, for instance. Look at what Carlo Ancelotti's won at Real Madrid, and look at what Carlo Ancelotti's won in his career. And because they've failed in the Champions League, in the earlier stages, you would say, and the league looks like is Barcelona's. Obviously got El Clasico, so that's going to be a tense game. And I think if Real Madrid somehow win El Clasico, then that puts them back into the title race. But look at that, they're still moving on Ancelotti because there's standards, you know. And this is what I'm trying to say to you. Yeah, we have to put this into perspective because yeah. So I think personally, Anthony probably will move on. You know, obviously he's put himself in the shop window, but I would have liked to see Anthony be given more of a chance because I just don't understand the last couple of managers, the likes of Ten Hag, the likes of Amorim. Why do they favour the likes of Garnacho over an Anthony? Garnacho's not better than Anthony, you know, and yet he's been given, you know, every opportunity under the sun, and Anthony's having to go out on loan, maybe because of the wage, who knows? But that's a conversation for the summer because we'll have to wait and see what happens. But for me, definitely, I wouldn't mind seeing Anthony come back, but I want to see the additions as well and see what happens after this Europa League. So DXR says Man United should win this final. If they do not, it's a massive dent to Amorim. 100%. As I said, there's nowhere to hide for Amorim if he doesn't win this this final. You know, and for me, as I said before, he has to definitely get sacked regardless. And again, me personally, I think he has to go anyway because it's just been a poor season. So, but that's standards, you know. Sham says, I read that if Betis win the Conference League and United win Europa, then Anthony would win both medals as he played for 4 games in Europe. Yeah, that's true. That's true. He could be the first player to win two trophies for 2 different teams. Yeah. Do I see Betis beating Chelsea? I mean, it'll be a tough ask. I mean, when you've got the likes of Isco and Anthony together, you know, they have a chance. But I think Chelsea will be massive favourites. But again, you never know. And again, United need to navigate their way against Spurs, which again won't be easy, you know. And again, Spurs have it all on the line as well because, as I said, it's the make or break game for Ange Postecoglou as well. Because you'd have to think that if Postecoglou doesn't win this trophy, he gets sacked, you know. So he's going to be telling his team to go all out. So it's going to be a tough game. And it's going to be an interesting game for various reasons. Yeah, big up Blue Edits. Yeah, so yeah, that's mad. Every team's got to a final except for Arsenal. You know, so you got United and Tottenham Europa League final, Chelsea Conference League final, Liverpool obviously won the league, Newcastle won Carabao Cup. Man City are in a final, FA Cup final. Crystal Palace are in the FA Cup final. So, yeah, all the big clubs, really. Arsenal are supposedly meant to be a big club. Haven't made a final, you know. But, again, that's Arsenal's problem because the fact that this manager, Mikel Arteta, is still there, keep him there, man, because, yeah, it's embarrassing, man. But we have to wait and see what happens. But if there's any Arsenal fans in there and you think Arteta should still be there at the club, then guys, feel free to put that in the chat because again, just like Ruben Amorim, I've never seen certain managers being given so many excuses and just getting so much time after doing not much, you know. And Arteta this season has had what 4 trophies to go for: the league, Champions League, Carabao and FA Cup, and he's failed again. But yet, there's still people out there saying, you know, give him more players. Like, it's madness, really. So, remember what Mike Tyson said, something along the line, that confidence instilled in a person can surpass a genius. Yeah, I agree with that. Confidence is everything in football, you know. If you've got the confidence of your manager, you know, you can play your game freely. This is why, for instance, someone like Kobe Mino, he's a prime example, you know. I don't think Kobe Mino has the confidence of the manager because Kobe now in this system is not a starter. And to be honest with you, he's still 19 years of age. So he shouldn't really be starting every game anyway. But you can tell he hasn't got any confidence from his manager because he's playing in the position right now in the 6 or the 8 where you can tell he's not comfortable. And then when he does play in the 10, he's likely to come off, or come on and having to do something special so the manager can take him seriously. But again, he hasn't got the confidence of the manager. And again, confidence is everything. If you're confident, you're trying things that you wouldn't try before, and this is a massive thing, man. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, listen, I've mentioned this plenty of times, DXR. So the media are a massive problem. And the media, what they do, the media are very good at controlling the narrative. So again, if you're someone that isn't really that invested in football and you're just someone that is a casual fan or someone that, as I said, just sees football for how it is, from what these pundits and that say, then you're going to believe every word that these pundits say, or the media say. So again, I've mentioned this so many times. These people are doing a disservice to people like myself because I watch, every Man United game. As I say, I've got massive experience in playing and watching and coaching football. And when these people come out with certain things, it's laughable because a lot of these guys you can tell were scripted. And again, the main thing is that players that are liked in the media, these guys will go over the top for them. Prime example was Mason Mount. It's like Mason Mount has done nothing all season or since he's come to United. And again, the 2 goals he scored against Bilbao were 2 world-class finishes and deserves his praise for that. But the problem is that the way like these Robbie Savages of this world were going on, it's like Mason Mount does that every season or every game. And it's far from the truth. And it's like there's certain players that have to do a lot more to get half the respect. And there's certain players like a Mount, that have to do little to get massive respect, And again, it's because these fans, these pundits and the media are trying to push out certain narratives. And I implore anyone, if you have a deep interest in football, is to just not listen to anything that these guys say, and just form your own opinion and make up your own mind. That's why I say this whole Amorim needs his own players, and he shouldn't be sacked. That's a lot of nonsense, and that's coming from certain fans, certain fan channels, and sometimes a lot of the media or certain pundits. It's a lot of nonsense. You get your own players by proving you can do a good job with the players you have right now. Because any company, they're not going to give you your own way if you're not proving that you can do well with what you've got. So, yeah, I don't agree with that, man. But again, opinions. Yeah, listen, the media pick which players to choose, of course. And again, the majority of players that they pick usually seem to be the black players with personality. Look at how this country have destroyed Paul Pogba's image, The people that stick up for Paul Pogba are players that can see through this bullshit, And the thing with Paul Pogba, he's one of the most gifted players of his generation. But the way this country have talked about Pogba, you would think that he's just some average player, And this is the problem, You've got someone like that is vilified because of his personality, because he has different color hairstyles, because he dances, He's outspoken, He's a player that this country as a whole cannot relate to. So what they'll do, rather than understand the player, they'll just criticize him and tell him that he's not serious about football. Like, remember Graham Souness coming out with the nonsense he's come out with, because he can't relate to a player like that. Just look at the player and the qualities he has, and that's all that should matter. All this other stuff doesn't make any difference. And again, these people are a massive problem in football as a whole, because again, they're the ones that push out the narrative for the majority to just go with, But big up Sham for that anyway. So, and DXR says, Anthony giving me Robinho vibes. I don't know, really. I don't know, different type of players for me, you know. Robinho was a very good player. Again, when he come to Man City, you know, obviously if anyone remembers the story, he thought he was going to Man United and then realised it was Man City. But again, yeah, Robinho was a ridiculous player, man. In this era of football now, again, someone like Robinho will be criticised because, again, the way that Robinho is, the way that he plays, you know, people will be saying, oh, why is he not taking on his man? Why is he not putting it down the line, running after the ball? That's what a lot of these fans can relate to, you know. So, yeah, he's a prime example. If he was in this era of football, you know, his quality will not get respected because he doesn't do what the majority of these shit wingers do now. And that's just get it out their feet and just run down the line and just try and put a crossing, which is nonsense. So, yeah, man, it's madness. So Mourinho called Wenger. Yeah, I remember that. A specialist in failure. Yeah, exactly. And to think that Mourinho wasn't really wrong when you think about it, but to think that they've got Arteta in place and he's won one trophy with Unai Emery's team. Yeah, it's madness. It's absolute madness. But again, as I said, you know, that's one for the Arsenal fans because I know there is Arsenal fans out there that are trying to, you know, uphold the standards, but too many of these fans now just think that Arteta is some kind of guru, you know, and the fact that he was given this job in the first place is an absolute embarrassment in the first place anyway. To think that Patrick Vieira wasn't even recommended for this job, but Arteta was, and a lot of Arsenal fans would assume that Vieira is one of their greatest legends, but Arteta was given this job because he was a number 2 to Pep. Again, that's a joke, but we all know why that is anyway, you know. Ronan says Garnacho edges Anthony as he's less predictable. Anthony's one-footedness limits his threat, with Premier League teams easily anticipating his cut-in since he really uses his right foot to shoot or cross. Big up to Ronan. Again, you know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But Ronan, what I would tell you, the fact that you think Garnacho is better than Anthony is the problem in itself. Because I don't understand how a player that average like Garnacho is rated highly. Like, it doesn't make any sense, you know. And the fact that you think Garnacho edges Anthony just shows the problem. And shows the problem why this Man United are in the position they are. Because this fan base have been pushing for the likes of Garnacho, Rasmus Højlund and Bruno Fernandes. And this is what you get. This is what you get. You get 15th in the league. Because if you've got players like that are consistently playing, what do you expect? Like this Man United fan base, they champion hard work, not quality. Anthony's got so much more quality than Garnacho, but yet you're saying Garnacho edges Anthony because he's less predictable. I'd argue Garnacho. I'd argue the other way around. Garnacho is very predictable because you know what he's gonna do. He's either gonna cut inside for a shot or go down the outside and try to hit it with his left foot to put it out for a corner. That's all he does. So that is more predictable. You know, so the fact that you think Garnacho edges Anthony, again, this is the problem in football. Because I've never seen a player so bad in Garnacho talked about highly the way he does, you know. And I've hearing people saying he's got potential to go and play for Real Madrid. Like, Real Madrid. Like, come on, you know what I mean? The amount of times I've heard that, he's got potential to go and play for Real Madrid. Maybe Real Madrid's C team. Because if you're talking about Real Madrid's first team, Real Madrid don't buy players like that. And to think that where he plays, you've got Vinicius Jr., Mbappe, who actually plays there, but he's a 9, Rodrigo, who actually plays there, and you think people think Garnacho is a target of Real Madrid. Again, these people don't even know what they're talking about, you know, but that's them, innit? And Wenger Mourinho beefs, remember them squaring up the touchline. Yeah, listen, I think that's when football was actually quite enjoyable, you know. Wenger and Mourinho hate each other, but again, you'd arguably say it's because both managers were winners, you know, and, you know, it made it more anticipating, you know what I mean? But Yeah, what I would say, man, is yeah, this football isn't what it was. We know that, you know, and but the standards of certain clubs, you know, I think the only team that really have any standards in this league from the top teams, you'd have to say it's Man City and Liverpool, you know, and that's hard to say because obviously Man United's two rivals, but the likes of United, Arsenal don't have any standards. I think Chelsea to a degree have standards. You know, they're ruthless as well. But the fact that Man United and Chelsea and Arsenal fans seem to think the two managers should stay, yeah, it's a long way back for both teams, man. And you'll have to just hope that, especially for Man United's case, that Ineos, you know, they haven't got the blurred vision with these fans. They just do what's right for the betterment of the club, you know. Um, so Sham says, could Garnacho do what Anthony has done for Pettis? No way. Garnacho wouldn't even survive in the championship. You know, people might laugh, but Ahmad, look at Ahmad. Ahmad had his apprenticeship in the championship and in Scotland. Garnacho's come straight into the first team. You know, Garnacho wouldn't do nothing in the championship. For a start, the championship is a physically demanding league, and we've already seen that Garnacho has no physicality. So some of the things that he might get away with at times in the Premiership, he wouldn't get away with that in the Championship. You know, so yeah, he'll struggle. But again, some fans just think that this guy is the second coming of Ronaldo. You know, and it's just embarrassing. But guys, big up yourselves anyway for coming on each and every time. Only got 4 likes, guys, which is poor. At least want to try and hit 10 likes. So if it's your first time in there, guys, again, it don't take too much. Just press that like button. Help the channel to grow. And again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do. As I said, it's just one click of the button, you know. And again, make sure you check out my other content as well. You know, I've got some good content on there. You know, there's some things you might agree, some things you might not agree on, you know. But again, it's about having that dialogue, guys. And as I said, big up for Ronan coming in, you know, with his questions. Obviously, I didn't agree with a lot of them, but that's what it's about, you know. And maybe Ronan might go away and have a think of some of these things, and you know, or maybe he won't. But as I said, man, the whole debate about Ruben Amorim is going to come down to May 21st against Tottenham in that Europa League final, you know. And as I said, I think if he doesn't navigate his way through there, then that's it. Big up to Sham, big up to DXR, big up to Reluctant Gamer, big up to everyone coming through as well. Just one last question before we go. So Ronan says, never said Garnacho suits Amorim's system, but he's 20 with 21 goal contributions this season. Meanwhile, 25-year-old Anthony already left the Premier League because he couldn't cope with the demands. Okay, so first and foremost, Anthony didn't leave the Premier League because he couldn't cope with the demands. That's a lie. So you've made that up. Yeah. And secondly, I don't care if Garnacho is 20. That makes no difference. Lamine Yamal's 17 and he's the best player in the world. You know? The fact of the matter is, at 20, does Garnacho show any level of ability or quality to see that he can be a long-term player for Man United? And the answer is no. Yeah. So that doesn't wash with me. And again, this is what I would say. This whole 21 goal contributions nonsense. Okay. This is the problem in football now. It just seems to be about stats. You know, you can tell me he's got 21 goal contributions, but why are you not mentioning that he went, was it 16, 17 games without a goal? Again, people just like to just push things out to try and push a narrative. You know, he went 16 or 17 games without a goal. Again, Højlund went 20-something games without a goal. But yet you're choosing to tell me he's got 21 goal contributions, you know, because you're just trying to make excuses. At the end of the day, I've seen the likes of, coming from the youth, Ravel Morrison, Mason Greenwood, Angel Gomez, Giuseppe Rossi, who was bought from Parma. And if anyone remembers Giuseppe Rossi, what a top player he was that was ruined by injuries. And again, Rossi was coming through at a time when United had Rooney, Van Nistelrooy, because that was the standard there, you know, Luis Saha, you know. So I've seen Angel Gomez, Mason Greenwood, Giuseppe Rossi, Paul Pogba. Who else is there? Even Lingard and Rashford. You know, Sylvani Banks-Blake, if you remember him. Federico Makeda. You know, and then Angel Gomez. There's probably players that I've actually forgotten. And Kobe Minu. And I will comfortably say Garnacho is the worst out of all them. But yet, he gets the most protection. Why? You know? Doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense. As I said, it's cool having your opinion, but when you start bringing goal contributions into it, unless you're gonna come with the full facts, again, you're just trying to prove points that there ain't no points to prove. At the end of the day, you know, he's 20, you know, and he isn't the level that Man United should be looking to. And if Man United are looking at the likes of Acuna and other players, Mbuemo, Eze, Ryan Cherky, you know, there's no way Garnacho has a place in this lineup. You know, so I don't really care how old he is. Is he good enough? And the answer is no. You know, so Amorim said Anthony performs well in La Liga mainly due to the fat physicality and intensity in his post-match interviews. Anthony and Garnacho has to leave the club this summer. So again, I don't really care what Amorim has to say on Anthony. Like if Amorim thinks that the physicality and intensity is good for Anthony, that's his opinion. That don't mean he's right. And again, I don't agree with that, because what's happened is that Anthony's gone to a team where they're letting him express himself. And again, confidence. He's got the confidence of the manager. Just because Amorim says it's the physicality, that doesn't mean it's right. Because Amorim's manager, that doesn't mean we have to, you know, go off his every word. It's his opinion. But what I would say, he didn't give Anthony a run in the team, and Anthony's just gone to show what he's got to offer. And for me, you know, being given a chance to show what you've got is the main thing. So again, yeah, I don't really care what Amorim's got to say on that. Amorim just needs to make sure he navigates his way to that Europa League final, as I keep saying. But guys, as I said, big up to everyone for coming on each and every time. Obviously, guys, I had a recent poll going, you know, which I think a few of you have seen. So Florian Wirtz, you know, for me, one of the best players in the world currently. Again, DXR, yeah, he's trying to save face. I agree. But for me, Florian Wirtz, where's he going to go to? Barcelona, Man City, Real Madrid, or Bayern Munich? I think last time I checked, I think the poll said Bayern Munich. What I would say, I wouldn't rule out Man City, guys, because obviously De Bruyne is leaving in the summer, you know, and there's a massive void that needs to be filled. And for me, from what's available, he'll be perfect for them. And I don't think people should be overlooking that. People saying Bayern Munich, you know, I can see where you're going with this. And again, I'm not saying you're wrong, you know, but don't rule out Man City, because if Man City make their intentions clear, you know, it's not. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he goes to Bayern Munich, even though, as we know, the history of top German players or top players in that league, they more or less move from, you know, the Leverkusens or Dortmund to go to Bayern Munich. But Man City have a space there for Florian Wirtz who would fit into their team seamlessly. So I don't think personally it's a foregone conclusion, but I can see when people saying Bayern Munich, you know. Again, Barcelona, as I mentioned, you know, but he's a Barca type player, and him playing with, you know, Pedri, Yamal, De Jong in the same midfield, yeah, that would be frightening, as I said before. But we'll have to wait and see, man. But Sham, I hear what you're saying, but if he was to go to Real Madrid, I think that would be the wrong move for his career, because, again, Real Madrid just buy individuals, you know, and not saying that Florian Wirtz won't shine in Real Madrid, but they've already got players there that, you know, that they can't even fit into their team at the moment. Because let's be honest with you, that front three of Mbappe, Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo, you know, on paper it looks nice, but realistically that doesn't work when you're playing the big teams, because you've got basically 3 wide players there, you know. So I don't want to see Wirtz going to Real Madrid. I think Man City, again, I'd love him to come to Man United, but that ain't going to happen. But if he was to go to a Man City or a Barcelona, that would be ideal. But again, yeah, I can see the Bayern talk, but we have to wait and see. But guys, as I said, yeah, that's a poll that I got up. So again, if you haven't seen that poll, you know, give your opinions and let me know what you think. Even put some comments in there as well. I had another one come out today actually, which you guys might have seen. So yeah, give that a check. But as I said, Man United tomorrow against West Ham, 2 p.m. kickoff. You know, as I said, I hope that Amorim does play a competitive team. You know, and for me, you know, if United get a draw, I would say ain't the end of the world. But anything other, if they get a loss, again, he's going to be under pressure with that Chelsea game on Friday and then the big Europa League game. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, guys. But I will be back possibly tomorrow to do my reaction to the... yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, guys, I'll probably be back after the Arsenal-Liverpool game. And obviously we can talk about the Newcastle against Chelsea and the Man United-West Ham game all in one. So I'll possibly be back, you know, after when the Arsenal-Liverpool game finishes. So again, if you guys are free, make sure you jump on. And as I said, make sure you are interacting in the live chat. And as I said, big up, guys, for coming on. And yeah, I will schedule it as well. So yeah, make sure you guys keep a lookout on that. But as I said, yeah, big up for coming on, and I'm gonna catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.